The golden rays of evening filtered through the tall glass windows of La Belle Vie, one of the city's most luxurious restaurants. Crystal chandeliers sparkled like frozen rain. The sound of gentle jazz floated through the air, and every guest who entered was dressed in designer, clothes that whispered money and power. Among the waiters gliding between tables in their crisp uniforms was Jamal Carter, a tall young black man with calm eyes and a smile that carried more humility than most could imagine. Jamal wasn't just another waiter, he was a dreamer. Beneath that black vest and neatly tied apron lived a man who believed in kindness, even when the world wasn't kind to him. His mother used to say, "Son, people may not hear your heart, but they'll always feel it." That sentence lived in his soul. It was a busy evening. Orders, complaints, laughter, everything blurred into one. But at the far end of the room, at table 17, something unusual caught Jamal's attention. An old man sat there alone. His clothes were worn, his hands trembling slightly as he stared at the menu. Eyes confused, lips moving, but no sound coming out. Guests at nearby tables gave him puzzled glances. Some even whispered, assuming maybe he was lost or couldn't afford to be there. Jamal noticed something else. The man was trying to communicate, but not with words. His hands moved in small gestures, shaky but intentional. Jamal realized it instantly. The man was deaf. Without hesitation, Jamal walked over. "Good evening, sir. May I help you?" he said gently. The old man looked up, startled, and began to sign something. But the waiter who had been serving the next table scoffed. "Man, I think he can't hear you," the other waiter said. "Probably shouldn't even be here." Jamal's eyes narrowed. He stepped closer, took a deep breath, and began to sign back. The old man froze mid-gesture, his eyes widening in disbelief. For the first time that night, his hands stopped trembling. Jamal's fingers moved gracefully, fluently, asking, "Are you okay, sir? Would you like me to help you order?" The restaurant seemed to pause. The clinking of cutlery slowed. People turned, whispering. A black waiter using sign language? That wasn't something they saw every day. The old man's lips curved into a smile. He signed back, "Thank you. People don't usually understand me." Jamal signed, "You're welcome. Everyone deserves to be heard, even without words." He helped the man order, made sure the meal was just right, and even stayed to make small talk, in silence with signs. And for the first time that night, the lonely old man wasn't invisible. As the evening passed, a commotion stirred near the entrance. Cameras flashed, and whispers spread through the room like wildfire. "The billionaire's here," someone whispered. It was Ethan Cole, the youngest tech billionaire in the country, a name everyone recognized. But Jamal didn't care. He kept attending to his tables, focused on doing his job right. Moments later, a panicked shout broke the calm. "Someone's collapsed!" It came from table 17. The old man, the one Jamal had been helping, was lying on the floor, shaking violently. Guests gasped and waiters froze. No one moved. No one knew what to do. But Jamal did. He dropped his tray and rushed forward. "Call an ambulance!" he shouted. He knelt beside the man, checking his pulse, whispering softly even though he knew the man couldn't hear. "Stay with me, sir. You're not alone." Jamal noticed the man's hand moving weakly, forming signs. He was trying to say something. Jamal leaned closer, focusing on the trembling fingers. The man signed, "My son. Tell my son. I'm proud." Tears filled Jamal's eyes. "You will tell him yourself," he whispered. "You'll be okay." The paramedics arrived minutes later. Jamal stayed by the man's side until they carried him out. The billionaire, Ethan Cole, arrived just in time to see his father being wheeled away. "Dad!" he shouted, running forward. "What happened?" The staff stumbled over explanations, but the paramedics pointed at Jamal. "This young man saved his life," one said. Ethan looked at Jamal, just another waiter, sweat on his face, uniform stained, hands trembling. "You?" "Yes, sir," Jamal said quietly. He just needed someone to listen. The billionaire frowned, confused. "Listen, he's deaf." Jamal met his gaze and said, "Listening isn't just with your ears, sir. It's with your heart." Those words hit the billionaire like lightning. For a moment he couldn't speak. Days later, the news broke across every platform. Black waiter saves deaf man. who turned out to be Billionaire's father. But the most shocking moment came when Ethan Cole held a press conference. Cameras clicked, reporters shouted, but he raised a hand for silence. Standing beside him was Jamal, and when the cameras rolled, Ethan didn't speak. He signed, slowly, beautifully. He signed, "This man taught me the true meaning of communication." The crowd gasped. Ethan turned to Jamal, smiled, and said aloud, "You didn't just save my father's life. You reminded me what it means to care." And in that moment, every person in the room realized something powerful. Kindness doesn't need a language, and respect doesn't have a color. As Jamal stood there, overwhelmed by tears and applause, he thought of his mother's words again. "People may not hear your heart, but they'll always feel it." He smiled, not for fame, not for reward, but because he knew he'd done something right. Morale of Chapter 1. No act of kindness ever goes unheard. True communication isn't through words, but through compassion. It had been 2 weeks since that unforgettable night, the night when Jamal Carter, the humble waiter who spoke with his hands and heart, became a name whispered across the internet. Every news outlet, every talk show, every social media feed was buzzing with the same story. A black waiter who knew sign language saved the deaf father of billionaire Ethan Cole. But Jamal didn't care about fame. He still took the early bus every morning, still tied his apron the same way, still smiled at customers who never even looked him in the eye. Because for Jamal, kindness wasn't a performance, it was a habit. One morning, as he was wiping down a table before the lunch rush, his manager rushed toward him wide-eyed. "Jamal, you need to come to the front. Right now." Jamal looked up confused. "Why? Did something happen?" The manager pointed to the window. A line of luxury cars gleamed under the sun. The door opened, and out stepped none other than Ethan Cole himself, in a sharp grey suit, sunglasses, and the confidence of a man who owned half the city. The entire restaurant froze. Customers whispered. Cameras clicked. Jamal's heart raced, but not out of excitement, out of surprise. Ethan walked straight to him. "Mr. Carter," he said, smiling slightly, "we meet again." "Sir, good to see you," Jamal replied politely. Ethan nodded. "My father wants to see you. He's been asking for you every day since that night." Jamal hesitated. "Is he okay?" "He's recovering," Ethan said softly. "Thanks to you." Then, after a pause, he added, "Please, come with me." The car ride felt surreal. As skyscrapers passed by, Jamal stared out the window, thinking of his mother, of the nights he'd prayed for a better life, of the moments he'd felt invisible in a world that judged before it listened. Finally, they arrived at a private mansion on a quiet hill. The air smelled like lavender and money. Inside, everything shone: marble floors, gold-framed paintings, and silence thick enough to echo footsteps. In the living room sat the old man, Ethan's father, Henry Cole, smiling weakly when he saw Jamal. Jamal hurried over, instantly switching to sign language. "It's good to see you again, sir." Henry's eyes lit up. "Good to see you, my friend. I told my son, I only trust the man who listened without hearing." Ethan watched, astonished again by the fluidity and warmth of their silent conversation. Jamal's hands moved with grace, not as a performance, but as a language of empathy. Then Henry signed something slowly. Jamal's smile faded slightly, and he turned to Ethan. "He says he wants you to learn," Jamal said. "Learn?" Ethan asked. "Yes," Jamal nodded. "He says he wants you to learn his language, sign language, so he can talk to his son again without fear, without distance." Ethan looked at his father. The old man's eyes glistened. For years, they had lived in the same house but worlds apart. One speaking in noise, the other trapped in silence. And for the first time, Ethan nodded. "Teach me," he said. For the next few weeks, the mansion became a classroom. Each morning, Jamal would arrive and teach both father and son, not just how to sign words, but how to feel them. He showed them how to say, "I love you," "I'm proud of you," "Thank you," and even the simplest one, "I'm sorry." The billionaire, used to commanding boardrooms and dominating deals, now struggled to move his fingers correctly. Jamal chuckled softly. "You're trying too hard," he said. "Don't think like a CEO, feel like a son." That one sentence hit deeper than any lecture. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. Henry laughed more. Ethan listened more. And Jamal, the waiter who once stood invisible in a restaurant, now stood as the bridge that reunited a family. One afternoon, after a long lesson, Henry gestured for Jamal to sit beside him. His old, trembling hands spelled something slowly. "You changed my life. What can I do for you?" Jamal smiled and signed back. "Nothing, sir. You already did. You reminded me why I learned to listen." Ethan, who was watching, spoke softly. "You know, my father lost his hearing when I was 12. I stopped trying to talk to him after that. I felt helpless. But you spoke to him in a way I never could." He looked away, ashamed. "You made me realize money can buy everything, except connection." Jamal nodded. "Connection doesn't need money, sir. Just heart." A few days later, Ethan invited Jamal to a charity gala, not as a waiter, but as a guest of honor. Under the glow of chandeliers, surrounded by the most powerful people in the city, Jamal felt out of place. But when Ethan stepped on stage and began his speech, everything changed. "2 months ago," Ethan began, "a man saved my father's life. But he did more than that. He gave us something we'd lost long ago: communication." The crowd listened intently. "This man taught me that real language isn't sound. It's understanding. It's compassion. It's respect." He turned toward Jamal and signed, "Perfectly. Clearly, thank you, my brother." The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. Some cried. Then, to everyone's surprise, Jamal walked up beside Ethan and signed back. "I didn't rescue your father. He rescued my faith in humanity." The audience stood. Applause thundered like rain. The next day, Jamal returned to his small apartment, still wearing his old waiter's shoes. A letter waited on his doorstep. It was from Henry Cole. Inside was a note, handwritten, shaky, but full of heart. "Dear Jamal, you taught me that silence can speak louder than words. You reminded my son that love has no voice, only presence. And you reminded me that kindness is colorless. I am establishing a foundation for the hearing impaired in your name, the Carter Communication Fund. May it help others listen with their hearts as you did. Your friend, Henry Cole." Jamal's hands trembled as he read the letter. Tears streamed down his face. For years, he'd been overlooked, underestimated, ignored, but this time he was seen, truly seen. He whispered to the empty room, "Mama, you were right. They might not hear your heart, but they'll always feel it."